Hello and welcome back again to John's Chess Channel. This is the third episode. And on this episode, I'm going to play a kid named Shaun. Shaun is rated 1297. Shaun is a young punk who's on the Chessmaster program. According to his bio, Shaun is an attacker. So if you've been watching the last couple of episodes, I played Trudy. Trudy beat me in the first game. I beat her in the second. This time I'm playing someone rated a little higher than Trudy. I decided to be black this time. Um, and as you see, the games are going to get harder and harder as we move up the Chessmaster rating scale. First off, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. All right, and without further ado, let's talk about this game. So in this game, I play black. I wanted to switch it up a little bit. So Shaun played white. Shaun started off with d4, the queen's pawn opening, and I responded with d4 in kind. All right, that's a good opening to do. Some people like to play c5 and all that. I usually just do d5. His queen pawn, my queen pawn. And he brings out his knight. And another thing with D queen pawn games, if you guys aren't too familiar with chess yet, maybe people are at different levels, these kind of lead to closed games. Closed games meaning the pieces are kind of locked up and you got to use slow maneuvering to get through the game. Usually e4 and e5, the games I usually like to play, king pawn openings, lead to open games where pieces are relatively more mobile. You can have bishops moving around. So, yeah. So, Shaun brings out his knight. I bring out my knight too. This is called the Grunfeld defense, I believe. Reverse symmetrical variation. That's what this is telling me. He does c4. Okay, I don't like playing around with gambits where we all fighting over one pawn and stuff. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not an expert or a master myself, but that's personally not my style. And I don't like the games getting too closed up and all the pawns blocking me in. I don't want him to have the ability to do c5 and then there goes my black bishop, right? So I like to keep it relatively open. So I do d takes c4 and I take his pawn. So then he moves queen to a4. Oh, look at that. He's going to get my pawn back in a very complex way. A fork. Okay. So I just block it with the bishop. And I like to use the bishop because I'm attacking, forcing him to get out of there while protecting. You don't want to do c6, knight to c6, because obviously he can't move that pawn on d5. So maybe knight c6 could have worked too. So Shaun goes ahead and takes my c pawn. I move my pawn to e6. He develops with the knight. I move my knight out. Okay, so we're like mirror moving each other. Not really, because of the queen, but it seems pretty similar, his board and mine, right? No, not really. Ignore that. He moves his knight to g5. I move my bishop to e7. I don't like my knights being pinned to my queen. All he has to do is bring his knight over here from knight. Let me go back to the last move. So the reason I move my bishop there is because he just needs to move his knight over here to e4. I'm sorry, and then there goes my knight, right? Because the knight's pinned to the queen, and then I'm gonna have to take it back with the pawn and all that, and it gets sloppy. So I just decided to move the bishop to e7 over there to protect it, get rid of that pin. He moves his knight over to e5. I decide to castle. It's not every taunting piece your opponent hangs in front of you got to take. You don't always have to make the trade. That's something beginners tend to do a lot sometimes. Think they have to make every trade. No, I'm just gonna go on with the kingside castle. And I really like the castle because I just like to have my king protected, get it out of the way. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay. Shaun goes ahead and takes my knight. So I take his bishop back. And I kind of like my position now. I have most of my pieces mobile for the most part. I'm castled. Shaun doesn't even have his bishop out. Shaun didn't castle. He's just worried about trading, whatever. He takes my bishop. Okay, that was a bad bishop anyway, right? Because the bishop was blocked in by this pawn over here and this knight over here. Okay, so go ahead, you can have that. And that was a good knight he had because it was kind of in a central location. But I take with my queen. Okay, Shaun pushes that pawn. Finally, probably gonna get that bishop out. I move my rook to d8. I guess just to have that center over here aligned. I guess it doesn't matter yet because this pawn's here, but things change really quick in chess sometimes. So it's always advisable to have your rooks in the center file right here. Have it lined up with your queen. Maybe if I want to force a trade eventually over here, I can do that. So once that knight moves out of the way, that is. He does bishop to d3. Okay. I push that pawn. Okay. Um, if he wants to trade, he can trade. If not, I guess he'd have to push it up. He moves the knight. Hey, look at that surprise. Okay, I just go ahead and take the pawn. I don't like doubling up. I know I already mentioned I'm a neat freak when it comes to pawn structure because if he takes this bishop over here, I would have to take it with my pawn, and then it's going to be messy and opens up my king side. But it wouldn't have been easy to defend it really. Maybe I could have moved it back, but I don't like giving territory and being chased around when I play chess. So he castles queenside. Oh, look at that. And that's actually a good move to have the rook directly across from your opponent's queen, like he's doing to me, because even though there's some pieces there, once again things could change really quick, and then all he has to do is move his bishop out of the way, and look, I have a pinned pawn on d4, right? Okay, so I decide to move my knight over here, which is a cool move because I'm attacking his queen on c4 and I'm attacking his bishop on d3. He moves that queen back. I take. He takes with his rook. Let's see, what's material right now? We're relatively even, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm up by a pawn. So they always say to trade when you're ahead. So I decide to move my queen over to c6. He takes queen. I take queen. He moves the king. I'm not sure. Maybe that's another one of those random moves I told you guys computers like to do. So I take the pawn. Okay, it's a free pawn. I'm not going to wait for him to take it. And he takes my bishop with his knight, right? And then there goes the doubled up pawn structure. It doesn't matter as much this late in the game anyway, because it's like basically he just has two rooks. And once it gets down to the rooks and the pawns, you're pretty much at the end game. But I have a bunch of doubled up pawns. Look at that. For somebody who loves neat pawn structure so much, I have all these like isolated pawns and stuff. One thing about me though is, and I don't even do this on purpose, I always end up with like really advanced knights, advanced pawns, really past pawns that are like on the other end of the board. I don't even know how that happens. Like, I wasn't really even trying to do it, but look, this pawn is like 2 ranks away from promotion. So he takes, I take, he takes, wise move. Now he has an isolated pawn. I move my rook over to d2. He moves his rook to f1. Not sure why. I move my king up. He pushes his pawn. Sorry, that was kind of fast. I took his pawn, and then he moved his pawn on h3, right? He left it unprotected, so hey, I take it. Now I move my rook to g3. That is a fork. So I'm now attacking his pawn on e3 and his pawn on h3. He pushes that pawn right there. I move over here because he can't really defend it, really. He could try moving that rook to f4 if he wants, but I'll get it eventually if I want to. He puts me in check, okay. King h6. All right, now he's attacking my pawn over on f6, okay. So I just go ahead and take his pawn. If he wants to take it, he can. We could go blow for blow. But for some reason, he decides to move it over to c6. Okay, so Shaun is 1297. I recall saying that I estimate Chessmaster personalities are rated like, I'd say 200 higher than they should be for the most part. But this is kind of a rookie move, I would say. instead of just taking my pawn on f6 and then putting me in check, which I was willing to do anyway. But they're still gonna make simple, not so smart moves at this point of the game. All right, because the rating point's just like 1297, so that's not that highly rated. But later on, I don't think they're gonna give me that much mercy. But okay, I move down to e6. That stops all my troubles pretty much. He moves back over here to f1. I move my king to g5. Now I'm worried about pushing that pawn. I'm ready to get a queen. All right. He does that. I do this. He checks me. I move over here to the corner. All right. Now I put my rook behind my f pawn. Now he can't really do anything about it. I don't know why he did this, to be honest. I take his free pawn, so now I have another passed pawn on h4. Okay, I'm about to have a queen. Let's go back last move. So he was threatening my pawn on h5. Obviously, he can take it because the second he does, I get a queen, right? So that's the reason that happened. So I'm pushing it here. Now it's too late for him to get his king over in time. I don't know why he didn't try before, but now he pretty much has to move. I'm going to get a queen, so it forces him to trade. All right. Now I move my rook to a1 to prevent him from running away over here to a4 and hiding behind his pawns. Shaun, you are going down, my friend. All right, so he moves that king to b2. Okay, my endgame here is admittedly sloppy, so don't laugh at me, you guys. He chases my rook. I move back. He moves here. Okay, I move my rook over to c5. That way, I just want to block his king off. His king now can still run behind this pawn over here, which I don't like. So not only am I protecting this rook, but if he goes ahead and just takes my pawn, I'm just gonna have this entire rank to block his king off now. He won't be able to hide behind it. So that's why I did that. I thought that was a brilliant move anyway. So he pushes it for whatever reason. Okay, you could do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get a second rook and just do this the fast way instead of like bringing my king over and all that. He moves back. I'm just pushing. He moves that there. It's just a random move at this point. I take. Shaun takes. I take right back. King moves over to b3. I'm just going to keep moving. And I decide to get a rook. I do the simple rook checkmate instead of getting a queen and have to worry about, oh my God, am I going to stalemate him? You know, because the more pieces you have sometimes and the less pieces, the more powerful pieces you have and the less pieces your opponent has, it becomes much easier to stalemate them, and you don't want that. So he moves over there. I move my rook. Now I'm cutting off the row in front of him. I don't. Once again, I'm going to assume there's some beginners. I'm not going to assume any rating points for anyone. So if you're a beginner watching this, this is how you do the two rook checkmate. So basically, he does that. I move the pawn up to protect my rook. And then I just move my king out of the way so we could get this simple checkmate going. And I got to do a couple of extra moves to get this checkmate going. I'm sure there could have been a faster way. Some of you higher rating guys watching this are like, why did he take so long? But whatever, I got the job done. And this is checkmate right here. All right. His king can't go anywhere, and game is over. All right. So thanks for watching. Once again, please subscribe to this chess channel. And also, please feel free to leave me commentary about the game. If there's a certain game you want me to play, that's fine. I'm probably going to play some speed chess here and there to liven it up. I've been playing a lot of Crazy House lately because I notice I do much better at Crazy House than Bug House. Bug House, you got to depend on your partner and all that. Crazy House, I just kill it for some reason. But yeah, anyway. So let me know, or even if you want to play me, let me know about that too. And I'm gonna keep moving up in opponents in the Chessmaster personality series. So, all right, I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.